Let's start the show. You already know who it is. My name is Mike Kyle, aka the Fantasy Vulture. I have over a decade worth of fantasy football experience, and I've continuously competed for fantasy championships over the course of the past 6 seasons. Let's make it 7 in 2020. But enough of me, I'm here for you. On today's episode of the FB Show, we are going to continue our Week 1 game recaps, breaking down every single Week 1 game, all through the lens of fantasy football. Up next, we are going to be talking about the Seattle Seahawks versus the Atlanta Falcons. So if you're excited for that video, be sure to hit that like button down below like an open receiver downfield, Russell Wilson style. And if you want to smash the subscribe button power running back style, like Chris Carson up the middle, you can do that as well so that you never miss a video from me. Last but not least, you can follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. Any sort of fantasy football question you may have, whether it's a trade offer you want to go over, or a waiver wire pickup, or just a simple start-sit question, those are the places to hit me up. If you are subscribed, you guys know how we do highlights around here, and if you're not, you're about to find out. Let's get started, shall we? The Atlanta Falcons versus the Seattle Seahawks, a game that I was loving coming in. I said start everybody, and everybody came through here. Chris Carson in the first quarter, second and goal, a nice little 3-yard receiving touchdown. And then again, later on in the first quarter, Chris Carson, dump off screen, 19 yards to the house. Chris Carson being involved in the receiving game is something
signed a 3-year extension in March.
Up next,
he's in the block
Matt
for Ryan, who
throws
lofts
a
it up
laser
there
over the middle
for
of
his
the
new
field to a
tight
diving
end.
Hayden
And
Hurst.
Hayden
The tight
Hurst
end they brought
pulls it
over
in
from
inside the
Baltimore.
Seattle.
Hurst didn't
They
play
give
as
it
well
to
as I thought
Todd
he would,
Gurley
but that
over
seeing
the
that
top,
grab
trying to
made me
break the
really
plane,
excited.
and he's
Todd
in for a
Gurley,
touchdown.
welcome to Atlanta, dives over the pile for the 1-yard touchdown. And then later on in the third quarter, low-scoring game so far, but boy does that change right here. DK Metcalf, a 38-yard touchdown from Russell Wilson, and later on in the third, Wilson fires a strike over the middle of the field to Greg Olsen, who still got it for a 7-yard touchdown. Oh, you want Atlanta to put points up on the board? We can do that. Calvin Ridley, wide open in the end zone. The breakout is coming, 18-yard touchdown for the Falcons. But Seattle isn't done just quite yet. Carlos Hyde runs in for the 1-yard touchdown. And then again in garbage time, 38 seconds left, Matt Ryan throws a strike to Calvin Ridley for his second score of the game. This game is over. Seattle wins it 38-25. The over was smashed once again. I've been saying it all week. Take the overs. Defenses were only playing at 75% in practice, where offenses were playing at 100% because there isn't much of a risk because you're just trying to run and get away from the defense. So, you know, there's less cause for injury or things like that. You kind of get the point here. Basically, defenses had no way to prepare for the game speed of the NFL offenses. And that really showed with this game in particular. And boy, I said you need to start everybody in this game. And for the most part, everybody came through, so let's talk about it. Russell Wilson, oh my god, well, they finally did it. The Seattle Seahawks finally let Russ cook, and Russ balled the fuck out. I think Russ really is the MVP of Week 1. 31 completions, 35 attempts, 322 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 carries for 29 yards. Russ was electric. There was even a 27-yard run that I tried to find the highlight for, and it just didn't exist. I don't know, but Russ was just great in every single facet of the game. In the run game, Chris Carson, 6 carries, 21 yards, 6 for 6 in the receiving game, 45 yards there, and 2 touchdowns. He finished the day with 21 points. Carlos Hyde got in the end zone, found his way to be useful, 23 yards, and the score. In terms of the receiving options in Seattle, they came through for you in big ways. DK Metcalf, we saw the 38-yard touchdown. He finished with 4 receptions, 8 targets, 95 yards, and that touchdown. Tyler Lockett, while he didn't find his way into the end zone, he saw 8 targets, caught all 8 passes, and finished with 92 yards. He finished in double digits for you in half-point PPR, finishing with 13. And then Greg Olsen, 4 for 4. 24 yards and a score. This was the guy who I was saying, do you play him? I was saying start everybody. Does Greg Olsen fit into that category? And the answer is yes, right? We know how much Russell Wilson loves to throw to the tight end position, and Greg Olsen still had it. We saw it last year in Carolina, even throughout bad quarterback play. And now being in a much better offense, I think Greg Olsen has some very sneaky tight end value. Any questions here regarding the Seattle offense? No, not necessarily. I do think the thing that is really interesting here is we know that Seattle's game style has always been be a run-first team. And this really felt like the first time in a long time where they wanted to be a pass-first team. And maybe that was just to throw the Falcons a curveball, being off guard because there was no preseason action or anything like that. But like they actually let Russ cook. You know, we tweet that because one, as fantasy, we love it because that makes Russell Wilson way more valuable and more fun for us. But also, he's just better. He's better than they let him be. And to get 35 pass attempts off in a game where they weren't trailing at all is a really good sign moving forward. In fact, it's such a good sign. As a Chris Carson owner, I'm scared as fuck. Because the reason why I love Chris Carson so much is because I know he's going to get the ball 260 times a season and he's going to do great things with it because the offense revolves around the run game. But Chris Carson had 6 carries. Carlos Hyde had 7. Travis Homer had 3. You add that up, they only ran the ball 13 times. They threw it 35. What? This is the Seattle Seahawks now? Everything that we know might have to be thrown out the window with Chris Carson. Now, luckily, he was involved in the receiving game, so that did boost his floor, and he saw 2 touchdowns there. But if he's not, if they do just shift to this pass-first offense, and they move away from the run, what happens to Chris Carson's value? I don't know. This feels like an overreaction for me, admittedly. I am recording this at 2:30 in the morning now at this point, so, brain's moving kind of quick right now. Just something to keep an eye on. I'm not going to overreact to that too much. I know that this team does want to run the ball first, and I feel like that this was just something where they felt like they had the opportunity to strike, and so they took advantage of that. So I'm not worried about Chris Carson or anything like that. We'll see what happens going forward. Just something to kind of pay close attention to in the coming weeks. Let's talk Matt Ryan now and the Atlanta Falcons. Matt Ryan put up a monster game, although majority of it was in garbage time. 54 pass attempts, 37 completions, 450 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick. And wow, what a game for Matt Ryan, huh? Man, 54 attempts in week 1. We know Matt Ryan is a guy that's going to throw the ball 600 times, so like that number is not surprising. But in week 1, and like yes, they were getting boat race, so that's obviously going to have a major impact on the play calling. But damn, that is an insane number. He finished with, I believe, let's do some math here. He finished with what, 26 points or so? Matt Ryan just had a really, really great game for you if you played him. Like I said, you needed to play everybody going into this matchup. Todd Gurley, his first game as a member of the Atlanta Falcons, I thought he played really well. 14 carries, 56 yards, and that touchdown. He had 5 targets as well in the receiving game. Hauled in 2 of them only for a yard, but just being able to get the opportunity to get that receiving work was really exciting for me. Brian Hill only had 3 carries. Ito Smith had 1. This is going to be Todd Gurley's, this is going to be the Todd Gurley show. I was saying this all offseason long, Todd Gurley is the guy here. Why is he going in the 4th round of drafts when last season he still rushed for 14 touchdowns and had, I think, what did he have, 700 yards or so? This offense is going to be so much better than that Rams offense that he was on last year, and Todd Gurley's ceiling is still an RB1. They just so happened to get blown out early on in the game, so they had to trail from behind, and that's obviously going to lead to more pass attempts compared to rushing attempts. I unironically enough did not have a single Julio Jones highlight in that montage. For some unknown reason, I don't know why that was the case, but Julio Jones balled out again. He did what he normally does. 12 targets, 9 catches, 157 yards. Holy shit, Julio. That's just what we're going to see from him every single week. It's what we've seen from him for the past 10 years of his career, however long he's been in the league. Julio Jones is just an absolute yardage machine. He's a target machine. But for whatever reason, just doesn't like to score touchdowns. I don't know what it is with him. I was trying to explain this offseason, where he just feels so weird being your number 1 option because you're relying on yards instead of touchdowns, and that is just so unconventional for your number 1 wide receiver. Another player here that I'm just looking at, I didn't even notice this until now that I'm looking at the box score, because as I'm doing these, I have my thoughts on the game itself from what I saw, or just going back and rewatching it and just catching things that I may have missed. This slipped through the cracks. Russell Gage, who I also didn't have a single highlight from. I don't know what it was with this game, but apparently, like, everybody was just, and by everybody I mean like social media in particular, was so focused on the Seahawks that they didn't even bother looking at the Falcons. But all the Falcons receiving options here had over 100 yards outside of Hayden Hurst. What? Huh? Russell Gage, the third option. We talked about Russell Gage a bit this offseason, just being a guy to just kind of keep an eye on, because this team does run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, and they use a lot of 3 wide receivers. So if that was the case, Russell Gage was going to be that third option to replace Mohamed Sanu. And Russell Gage, 12 targets, 9 catches, 114 yards. He played great. And then Calvin Ridley, they all had the same stat line. They all had 12 targets. They all caught 9 balls. But then just the receiving option, or the receiving yards and the touchdown varied. Calvin Ridley, 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, yo, that basically made up all of Matt Ryan's passing yards. And then Hayden Hurst, 3 catches, 5 targets, 38 yards. Again, like, the story of this game was very simply start everybody, and that pretty much came true for the only person who that didn't come true for was Hayden Hurst. What are you going to do? It's his first game in the offense, really just playing with everybody, and this team just has so many other weapons where they aren't going to rely on Hayden Hurst week in and week out, but I still like Hurst's long-term outlook. Thoughts on the Falcons in particular? This team is good. Like, this team is built upon their offense. And that's not going to change anytime soon. You need to start all of your Falcons every single week, because, like, this is a realistic possibility for them week in and week out. Like, they legitimately could have 2 top 12 wide receivers in Ridley and Jones. They could have a top 24 or a top 36 in Russell Gage. Todd Gurley is going to finish the season as an RB1. And Hayden Hurst should, obviously this game was not the best, but he should be able to finish at the top 10 tight end, and Matt Ryan by proxy is then going to finish at the top 10 quarterback as well with all of these weapons. So please start your Falcons for the rest of the season and for the entirety of however long that they have all of these guys here, just this season and beyond. Start your Falcons. It'll be good for fantasy football. I think that's going to do it though for this game recap. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button down below, like an open receiver downfield Matt Ryan style, and also you can smash that subscribe button power running back style, not even power running back style, Todd Gurley style, like he did over the pile to get into the end zone in this game. And you can follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. Any kind of fantasy questions that you have, I can answer on those platforms. So I hope you guys check those out. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you in the next game recap. Remember, people come and go, but fantasy championships are forever.